As Pope? I'd like to be Pope. That would be my number one choice. No, I don't know. I have no preference. I must say we have a cardinal that happens to be out of a place called New York who's very good. So we'll see what happens.
Trump has once again found yet another way to trigger woke libs, and yet again, he is revealing just how clueless they really are. We're going to see what's really behind the Pope Trump meme and how this is really nothing less than pure psychological warfare on the globalists. And we're going to see how woke libs are playing right into President Trump's hands. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to celebrate right along with you the dawn of a new American golden age that you made possible back on November the 5th. So if you want a front row seat on everything having to do with the rise of a new conservative, traditionalist, civilizationalist age all over the world, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we dive in here, gang, what do you think you could do if you had the same insider trading information that Nancy Pelosi has, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Politicians like Pelosi have had access to insider trading secrets for decades now. They know exactly what stocks to buy and when to buy them. But guess what? You and I actually have access to that very same inside information. Thanks to a little-known SEC database, we could see what and when corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves. Gang, that's why you have got to click on the link below and sign up for a free training with me and my good friend Ross Givens. It's this Thursday, May 8th at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's all online, absolutely free. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. It's going to be an amazing free training where you and I can learn how to trade with the exact same insider knowledge as these politicians, but we're going to do it legally and ethically. But don't wait. Seating registration is limited, so click on that link below right now and register today, and I'll see you for an event that promises to change your life. So President Trump once again turned heads over the weekend when he tweeted out this image of himself as the Pope. And of course, it's causing the left, who generally, ironically, despise the papacy. They certainly have no intentions of recognizing papal authority, but they're so desperate to find anything that could slow down Trump's momentum, even going so far as to obsess over Trump's blue suit at Pope Francis's funeral. Well, now they're trying to rally Catholics to their cause by claiming the meme was oh so highly, horribly offensive. Now, gang, do me a favor here. Remind me, aren't these the same woke libs who cheered and celebrated the mocking of Da Vinci's Last Supper at the Paris Olympics? Right? What am I missing here? What did everyone complaining about Pope Trump say about that blatant blasphemy? Or what about Newsweek magazine covers like these, that literally divinized Obama, calling him, quote, God of all things, and literally the second coming? Heal thyself, physician. But all that hypocrisy duly noted, something far deeper is going on here with this papacy meme. We saw it with his May the 4th meme yesterday. Here, Trump posted himself as a Sith slayer, ordained to protect the galaxy from liberal lunatics. And he literally tweeted these images out back to back. And of course, they're just par for the course of a number of other memes. You may remember the Trump God Emperor meme or the Byzantine Emperor of the Americas meme. And what a number of scholars have noted about these memes is that they're all part of this wider phenomenon that we've often talked about on this channel called re-mythologization. And this is what a lot of analysts completely miss when it comes to these memes and when it comes to Trump's mass appeal in general. I got wind of this over the weekend in a piece in the City Journal called Reconsidering Trump. It's by an old school conservative writer named Martin Gurry, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. But it was very interesting, very much akin to what we're talking about here, because it starts off talking about how he completely missed the Trump phenomenon back in 2016. He was a never Trumper, total anti-Trumper. And he admitted, to his credit in this piece over the weekend, that he just completely dismissed Trump as a real just TV clown. He couldn't take him seriously. He blew off Trump in the way that Charles Krauthammer originally dismissed him. Do you remember Krauthammer? If you could believe it, Krauthammer dismissed Trump as the Al Sharpton of the Republican Party back in 2016, in that he was slick, he was smooth. He spouted what Krauthammer called provocative nonsense, operative word nonsense, which only distracted any presidential debate. That's how establishment Republican figures were talking about Trump originally. And this guy, who was part of, I guess, the establishment, writing for the City Journal, he has finally recanted of nonsense like that and is realizing precisely the historical moment that we're in. Listen, take a look at what he wrote. Quote, "I've come to see that the mistake was mine. Some dim instinct for survival in the elite establishment allowed it to recognize the form of its destroyer. In the most improbable turn of all, Trump has emerged as the avatar of the digital age, a Hegelian figure bearing the direction of history, the Weltgeist upon his shoulders. The plotting hierarchies of the federal government have collided with the digital warriors Trump has let loose, among others Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. It isn't a fair fight. The traumatized old regime is being torn apart limb from limb." You see, this guy here writing for the City Journal, he now recognizes that Trump's mass appeal has never been ideological. It's not political. It's not economic. It's not analytical in any of those senses. Trump's mass appeal is mythic. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand Trump. Trump's mass appeal is mythic. We're living in a period of profound mythological renewal. And those who still find themselves in the old liberal, modernist, neocon mindset have been caught completely blindsided by this. Remythologization involves reconceptualizing or replacing a society's existing dominant myth in light of what are often dramatically changing, disruptive events and circumstances. So remythologization takes place generally at critical historical moments of extraordinary disruption and global changes. So, for example, scholars often point to the transition period from what philosopher Karl Jaspers calls the axial age. That's made up of the heroic and divine myths of Homer and Hesiod. So we're talking an age starting around 800 BC, going up to the age of the great philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle in the 4th century BC. So this was an extraordinary period of social transition with the rise and flourishing of the Greek city-states and Greek politics. And that social transition was marked by a significant remythologization where the ancient myths were reimagined in more philosophical and heavenly terms. The ancient rituals associated with the Homeric myths gave way to more contemplative philosophical practices advocated by Plato and Aristotle. So this is where we begin to see the centrality of the Greek city-state, the polis, and urban society as sacred space, the advent of democracy, right, and republics and so forth. Athens starts to take on a sacred role in the Greek mythological imagination. Remember, mythologies, when all is said and done, all mythologies is they're meta-narratives. And they're meta-narratives that function as value systems, value hierarchies that enable us to organize the data of society in such a way that prioritizes certain things over other things. That's it. we cannot help but think in mythological terms. I like pointing out whenever we think that we're modernists now, we don't need to think in mythological terms. That turns out to be a modernist mythology. That's a modernist mythology, right? We've seen it, historically as well. Averell Cameron, the early Christian scholar, she's written about the mythological transition from pagan Rome to Christian Rome, where previous pagan mythologies were synthesized and transfigured and reimagined as fulfilled in the meta-narrative of the Christian gospel. Or again, I just alluded to the scientific revolution of the 17th century. That can be considered a major moment of remythologization, ironically, I know. Particularly the enshrinement of method, scientific method, as that which opens up knowledge to all and liberates and emancipates humanity from the confines of superstition, promising endless progress in international peace. That's called the modernist myth. What scholars are noting here is that we are currently in the midst of the next great historical moment of social disruption and transformation, and therefore the next great historical moment for remythologization. And we could see that even just with the pervasive use of the term post, right? So we're increasingly in a postmodern world, or some would call it a post-American world, or a post-Soviet world, or a post-liberal, post-unipolar, post-secular world. And what this disruptive post period is doing is it's literally shattering liberal modernist myths, so that those modern myths that were so pervasive over the last 2 centuries, it's shattering them to the core so that they're being radically replaced with new myths, new meta-narratives, at the center of which today, whether liberals like it or not, is one Donald Trump. Donald Trump is seen today by tens of millions, literally hundreds of millions all over the world, as the conqueror of all things globalist and the initiator of the new golden age that is even now saving American and Western civilization. So Trump is seen in highly mythological terms. And we began to see that remythologization right around the time Trump was shot in the summer in Butler, Pennsylvania. You know, a number of American pastors took note that the blood on Trump's right ear echoed the biblical passages describing the consecration ceremony for the Aaronic priesthood, particularly Leviticus 18 and 14, where blood is applied to the right ear of Aaron and his sons, consecrating them as priests. So this act sets them apart as mediators between God and the people. And again, as it turns out, you know, that was just the beginning. And there were all these, it was so funny. There were all of these woke liberal theologians. Oh yeah, the blood on Trump's ear, that doesn't signify the Aaronic priesthood. They were missing the point that you can't argue with remythologization. Remythologization transcends logical categories. The legacy media and these woke theologians were stunned to find out that Trump rose up from that assassination attempt as something akin to a sun king. And I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what the Washington Post is calling his presidency, or better describing what Trump and his millions of supporters are envisioning his presidency as. It's no coincidence that Trump has gilded the Oval Office. He's taking the office into what the Washington Post calls Baroque and Rococo realms typical of 17th and 18th century French monarchs. And they're flipping out over it. The legacy media is reluctantly recognizing that Trump has become, without exaggeration, a larger-than-life, a mythical figure. And unfortunately for the legacy media, there was really no way of stopping that remythologization given the historical period we're in. It's not just the fact that we're transitioning from a modern world to a postmodern, or what I like to call more an archaeomodern age, which entails an inevitable transition in our self-defining myths. But the perception that Trump was saved by higher forces at Butler would inevitably serve as a source of legitimacy for his political power. Historically, rulers and states have invoked sacred frames of reference to justify their authority and to unite diverse groups under a common symbolic order. That's what great political ceremonies and buildings are all about. They reinforce a ruler's connection to the divine order, suggesting their rule is sanctioned by higher cosmic principles. This is what the new American Golden Age ultimately is really all about. It's about a new mythos, a new meta-narrative that involves the destruction of the old woke globalist order, of which, unfortunately, the last papacy was very much a symbol. I need not tell you that Francis was a major proponent and champion of the World Economic Forum. He was. That's actually why Argentina's president, Javier Milei, once called Francis, a fellow Argentine, a filthy leftist in his characteristically colorful way. The Brazilian philosopher Olavo de Carvalho referred to Francis as a full-blown communist. And indeed, Francis was an avid defender of liberal globalism and the cultural Marxist takeover of our public institutions. The Pope-Trump meme conveys the fact that the Golden Age has triumphed over globalism everywhere it has reared its ugly head, including the Vatican. That is ultimately what that meme conveys. It is not an insult to Catholics. It is a restoration of Catholicism in all of its glory. No, not as Trump as Pope, but as Trump rescuing the world from the clutches of the globalist monster, the Babel that enslaved the world these last 3 decades. The liberal globalist world is being conquered, and a new world, a conservative, traditionalist, civilizationalist era is rising. Trump mythically has conquered the world, and there's nothing screeching little libs can do to stop it. Hey there, Turley Talker. You know what? I'd love to hear from you. That's why I'm launching the Dr. Steve Hotline, where you can call in, leave a question, and maybe even hear your own voice featured on an upcoming episode of the show. Whether it's about the latest political shakeup or cultural trends or how we keep pushing forward in this new conservative age, I want to know what's on your mind. Call me at 717-844-5984. Just leave your question. I'll be checking in every single week to answer as many as I can. Again, that's 717-844-5984. Your chance to be a part of the conversation. One more time, 717-844-5984. Give me a call and let's talk.